position. She was his master. She was his boss. She was attractive. She was rich. She was powerful. And she was from a good family name. She has all the respectful categories that we could imagine to make a man want her. And she went to him dressed up, and she غلقت الأبواب. She locked many doors and trapped them in a corridor, and they're alone. And in that state, she said, قالت هيت لك. She said to him, come and get it. And in that first glance, قال معاذ الله. He said, Allah forbid. And he panicked, and he went against, and he ran away from her. Yusuf alayhi salam with that first glance. And look at his test. Our test is someone who may not even want you, is just walking by. And it's not even the second glance or the third glance. Our brothers are struck at the first glance. They get struck at the first look. So is it worth having that first look? Let's see what it does to you. Sisters, let me tell you something, sisters. I hope you can hear me. Sisters, it's so important that you realize something. Because sometimes the sisters are the ones tempting the brothers. They go out of their way. And they dress up. And they make the shling noises. You know the little things they carry around. Love God. And they wear these things and they walk. And then some of them, they have the smell. Whatever it is, they do it. And they get your attention. I have something to say to you, sisters. Because sisters are not like brothers. They do those things, but they don't do it for the same reason. Sisters don't do it for the player reason, or to look, or to have fun. Sisters really do hope that they will find the right one who will love them and cherish them, and so on and so forth. They're just going about it the wrong way. And they're just naive. So sisters, I have some news for you. If you think you found that right one, because he saw you, he heard you, and you walked by, or you were there, or you spoke online, or you chatted, etc., or you chatted on the internet, or you called on the phone, or you texted, or somehow you brothers and sisters have managed to hook up with the guys of da'wah, fi sabilillah, well, I am going to get married one day. Whatever the excuses are, sisters, if he's eyed you up, if he checked you out, he's checked out another 20 on the same day. You weren't the only one. If he's willing to check you out, he's willing to check others out. That makes you not special at all. So secrets out, brothers. Words out. Game's not going to work anymore. So let's just not look that way. Okay? And sisters, when you look for a husband, don't consider the one who is gawping at you with his jaw dropped. Think really. Does he really want me because he wanted everyone else he's seen as well, and he didn't find anything better, so he's settling for me? Or maybe it's the other way around. He's wasting time with you till he finds someone else. That's not the way to find a husband. So brothers, please realize that that's not the correct way to find a spouse. A brother will say, Ahi, I saw a sister at this event. Could you find out who her wali is? What were you doing looking at sisters at an event? Where you're supposed to be pleasing Allah Azza wa Jal. Where you're supposed to be praying to Allah. Where you're supposed to be learning about Allah. Akhi, but when are we supposed to get married? Well, not there. And not like that. So when a brother says, Akhi, I saw this type of a hijab. She's wearing a type of a hijab and a type of a thing. And she was by the stall. And she was by the door. And she was this. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. This is not why we have Islamic events. And I find those emails and messages very offensive. Because like a father figure, I'm responsible. And now this brother's running the MPD. He's responsible for the sister section. So if anything weird like that happens, he's accountable. And you are accountable. So brothers and sisters, please beware of this, you know. There is a right etiquette, and that's what we're going to talk about today. How to get married. I'm not a person to always tell people, haram, haram, haram. Haram, haram, haram. Don't do that, that's haram. You know, I'm not one of those people. I'm a person of solutions, so how do we fix it? How do we find a spouse? How do we fall in love? How do we have romance in our lives? That's what we're going to talk about today, okay? And it should excite some of the youth, inshallah. In a good way, not the bad kind of excitement. We need to lower our gaze, brothers and sisters. We need to leave the haram things, and the only way of doing this is to avoid bad places and fire up your things that will fire up your feelings, such as the canteen at school, or walking in front of the student unions, or walking in front of the sister sections and things like that. And of course, the worst one is the friends. You know, my friend, she's a friend. Oh, and cousins. They're like death. Okay, cousins. Because, hey, she's my sister cousin. She's not your sister. You know, he's my brother cousin. He's not your brother. He can marry you. Oh, no. Yeah, he can. So you cannot have it like that, okay? And then the worst one is, I've noticed some people say, no, I'll put my hand on her head and I'll swear by Allah, she's like my sister. No. This is weird. Okay, it's not from Islam. And, you know, so sisters, again, I'll say, don't let the brothers use you. And if they say all those things like, I love you, and all those sweet words, you know, cover up your sister. Cover up yourselves, sisters, and cover up your soul, your heart. Protect it from such lies and such trickery. We're going to talk about the hijab and the niqab. Keep in mind the hijab and the brothers with the isbal, the trousers above the ankles, etc. These things will not protect your soul. The soul is protected by knowledge. Knowledge of the fire and knowledge of and desire of Jannah. So the isbal, raising the ankles, the shirt, the trousers, and having the big beards, these things come after. If your heart's not in the right place, if your soul is not strong, this will not help you one bit. You have to work inside. You have to fear Allah. You have to learn about Jahannam. You have to learn about the torture. You have to study. Okay, let's get to the point. The eye is the arrow to the heart. Remember the Prophet ﷺ, he addressed the Sahaba, and with this hadith, the hadith I'm about to mention, I want you to think about it, okay? If this hadith was to the Sahaba, what chance do you and I have? Listen carefully. He told the story of this monk who lived in a monastery. This monk was the most righteous person in his village, okay? This monk, from the Bani Israel, he was the most righteous man of his village. He was firm upon Tawheed of Allah. And he lived in a monastery away from dunya, refused dunya. People came to him to learn about religion, and they would go, and he stayed in this monastery. And he stayed in his place of worship. And he stayed there until they had some pupils, some young men, who lived nearby in the village, who lived nearby the monastery, and they were planning on going for jihad fi sabilillah. And they wanted to go for the sake of Allah. However, they had a sister. The sister was, you know, she was unwell, and she needed looking after. So they couldn't just leave her. So they thought, what if someone were to look after her, then we could go. Because they were fighting. You should stay with her, I want to go fight for the path of Allah. And the other would say the same. So what they did was, they went to the monk and they said to him, will you look after our sister? The monk said, no. And they said all of these things, please, we can't trust anyone. You are the most trustworthy person in the village. Can we leave her with you? How can this be? I am a man. I am not mahram. No. Even a woman who's probably not attractive. She's not well. He said no. He refused. And that was the end of it. He said no. This is too much fitna. No. Even though it's not fitna, it's not. Why tempt myself? Time went on. Shaitan started whispering to this monk. Satan came to him and said to him, there is nobody more pious than you in the city. There's nobody more religious than you. You know your religion. You know the path of Allah. And how many people learn a few hadith and a couple of ayat and shaitan comes telling them that? That's number one. The kibr. Number two, that doesn't work. Shaitan comes to him and says to him, you are, I believe his name was Barseesa. He said to him, Barseesa, he said, listen Barseesa, if you don't take her, they will leave her with someone else. Then what? They will leave her with someone else, then what? No, that didn't work. You've got a room that you're not using. You can keep her away from you, and so on and so forth. And this continued, and think of the hasanat, the jihad they will go on. You will get so much reward. Finally, Barseesa thought, that's what I'll do. She'll be over there in the outside house, away from my house, separate room, nothing to do with me. Fine, he agreed. They brought the girl, he put her there, they left, they're gone, and now what he does is he brings food, leaves it by the door, and he's gone.